So hope you found yesterday's session useful and you got some of the insights in how to attempt to solve dynamic programming problem. So today what we are going to do is we're going to solve a problem, and this problem is from lead code, and we call it as coin change 2 problem. And I'm not sure if someone has already attempted this or someone has already solved this, but still, I think this is a very good problem to discuss because it belongs to a pattern of a dynamic programming problem which are based on decision making. So one of the very classic problem of pattern decision making in dynamic programming is your zero and knapsack. I hope you recall the zero knapsack uh, solving the zero knapsack using dynamic programming. Uh, Specifically, I want you to revise the approach of recursively solving it. So what we will do is the problem which right now which is being displayed on the screen. This problem will try to solve by using both the approaches, the top down as well as bottom up. So when we are using top down, I mean we will be using recursive approach, and it's very important that whenever you use recursive approach, you have to use memoization. So since I think we will be using Python as a language, the development language, so we'll try to see if we can use the Python's built-in ability to memorize recursive calls, and we'll see if we can overcome time limit exceeded test cases for this problem. Then once we look at recursive approach, then we will move to another approach which we call it as bottom-up approach, which is more specifically people do also call it as tabulation method, wherein we have a table. So that would be a little bit tricky to understand how the table we have to do and what to form and how to put what values there. So more well the you organize the table, more easier for you to will be to write the code. So we will start with recursive approach. So before we start with recursive or in that, I hope you recall yesterday's approach. So for any dynamic programming problem you want to solve, so this is dynamic programming problem. This I'm sure because it was tagged under LeetCode dynamic programming problem section. So we had done that. But remember, as I said, this is one of the patterns. Like in some problems, apart from minimization and maximization, you also have some another sentence like find all possible ways or find number of ways or find in what way X person can solve this or some you will find similar this one. If you can see that this has been specifically highlighted in italic on this problem. So this is to give a hint to the developer that most probably this is a dynamic programming problem, and as I said, it falls under a pattern called as decision making problems of dynamic programming approach. And one such classic example of that is zero and knapsack. In zero and knapsack, if you recall, what we do is our solution is based on what object you choose and what you do not, and you have to choose them in such an order that profit is maximized. So basically, this is a decision problem, like to select or not to select a specific item. If you select, there is a different possibilities. If you do not select, there is a different possibility. So code of this problem is not so lengthy code. It just I think it should be just a few lines of code, just maximum within 10 lines of Python code. But logic is very important to understand. So I think in today's lecture we'll try to focus on the recursive approach. We'll see the backend logic, and I'll try to answer some of your queries. Now, once you're done with this today's approach, maybe if time permits, we will continue the tabulation approach today, or if not, then we will solve the same problem using tabulation approach in tomorrow's lecture. So let us look at this problem. What is problem is asking you? So what he's saying is we are given with an amount, and we are given with a set of I mean here since it's I have selected as a Python, I'm getting a set of coins. Now what the problem is asking me to do is the problem is asking me to find out in number of ways I can make up this amount using the coins inside this coin set. Okay, I hope you understand this. For example, I ask you to make 150 a denomination of 150 rupees, and you can make a denomination of 150 rupees with multiple possibilities. For example, you might take 100 note and 150 rupee bill, and this will together form 150. Or you can take 350 bills, I mean 350 rupees notes, which will make the denomination of 150. This is second way. What could be third way? You can take 10 rupees notes, and or you can also take 5 rupee coins. It's depending upon in what denominations are available to you as a currency exchange. So speaking here, what I am supposed to find out, I'm supposed to find out, given the set of coins with a specific denomination values, I am asked to find out in how many ways I can get this 150 rupees. Okay, I hope you understood this problem. Now remember here, now you need to understand that what's the input? Input is the coin and the amount. I need to print the number of combinations which make up that amount. Now let us study the problem in order to understand further constraints and what conditions under which I need to solve this. If the amount of money cannot be made by any combination of coins, I need to return 0. Very important to note. If you cannot make this amount using any of the coins, my program has to return 0. Else, if not, then I need to return the number of combinations. Now, this is very important to note, which helps me in reducing the complexity of my program. What they are saying, you may assume that you have infinite number of each kind of coin. So I need not worry how many 10 rupees notes or how many 5 rupee coins or how many 500 notes I have. So imagine that I have infinite amount of notes. So no need to worry about the number of notes. So this makes my problem far more easier. So I need not worry about multiple conditions. Now, and another sentence which they have given is the answer is guaranteed to be fit into 32-bit integer. It means that I need not do any modulo arithmetic. I hope you recall something called as modulo arithmetic. When answer exceeds a too big number, sometimes these programs ask you to print the output by modulo 10 to the power of 17, modulo 7, or some kind of modulo arithmetic. I hope those who have solved problems on this, you understand what exactly it is. If not, later you can go to what exactly the concept it is. So I need not do any modulo arithmetic. That's also fine. I need not do any tricky modulo arithmetic at this point. So fine. So let us look at an example. So the example here, they have given two examples. This is to make ourselves understand the input and output. Remember, as I always say that, do not base your logic based on this explanation. Sometimes our minds are biased to start thinking of logic by using an explanation. Good. Example is to understand the input and output. So this is the starting point. Okay. So amount is 5 and the coins of denominations I have is 1, 2 and 5. So in how many ways I can make up this amount of 5 from this available coins whose denomination is 1, 2 and 5. So you can see the answer is 4 because I can make 5 rupees by using one coin of 5. Yes, one way. Second, I can use 2 coins of 2 rupees and one rupee coin. This is another way. And this is third way, and this is fourth way of creating a total amount of 5 by using coin of denomination value 1. So my program has to output the count of possible number of ways. So it is 4. In the second example, what do I see here is my amount is 3 and number of coin is 1 and the denomination is 2. Can you make 3 rupees by using just one or infinite number of 2 rupee coins? No. The answer is no. So hence your output you get is 0. The amount of 3 cannot be made. The third example, I have amount 10, coins 10, so 1. So the amount I need to make is 10 and coin of denomination 10 are available. So only one way is possible. So your program has to output as per this. Now let us look at constraint. What they're saying, the coin length is 1 or it means that I will at least have one coin every time. So one coin will be always given to me. So I need not to check about the coin length equal to 0. So I will always have one coin, and the each individual coin denomination, will be minimum 1 and maximum 5,000. That's also fine. And another is all values of coins are unique. That's another condition which makes our code even more simpler. So understand that what I'm saying is this cannot be 115. So it means that if that's why I call this as a set of coins. So each denomination given in this will be unique, and the amount will be max 5,000. 0. Remember, here it means the amount can be 0 as well, or the max it can be 5,000. But I'll always get one coin of at least value of 1. Okay. So this should be taken care, because this always help us in clearing the test cases, which are usually designed to check the corner cases and edge cases. Okay. So before I start discussing this approach, let me see what you think you can solve this. Okay, is it clear now? Is what clear now? So I was checking your messages, and I see that some people are saying there is a noise in the voice. Is it fine? Okay. So okay. So what do you think? What should be the approach to solve this problem? What do you think the approach? See, usually it looks like with this problem here is a brute force approach. It looks clear to us that the immediate logic which clicks to us is to count how many ways I can do 1, how many ways I can by using 2, how many ways I can use it by 1, 2, how many ways I can use by 1, 5, 2, 5. I think if you can try, the brute force logic looks like that you will find all combinations of this, and for each combinations you will see if I can make up the amount of 5 or not. Then I think after that you have to see if you can make this or not by using various additions, subtractions, and that. But if you do it using combinations, it would be exponential. For a smaller thing you can do, but as I said, the length of coins is around 300. It would be 2 to the power of 300. So it's a very big number. So obviously you will always get time limit exceeded. So what do you think? How we can solve this? So how many of you are fine with knapsack approach? How many of you can at this moment? How many of you can quickly recall the zero knapsack problem and its approach? So that I can explain you the logic for this. If majority of students say that we are unable to recall, we don't know what is zero knapsack, then I'll explain the logic. If not, I'll explain you in terms of zero and knapsack. Yeah, so those who say that they know what is zero and knapsack and the recursive approach of that, can just raise your hands. So I'll get a count of how many students are. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Out of 76, only 6. Okay, fine. So let me see if I can explain you logic and then go ahead. See, brute force approach is clear. Everyone knows how to solve brute force approach. Now, as far as dynamic programming is concerned, what I told you is you need to first figure out a solution. It could be brute force as well, but some kind of solution, then analyze it and find out the smallest problem in that. So if I talk about the smallest problem, the smallest problem would be one amount and one single coin, right? So if I have a very smallest problem, now let me switch and let me tell you. Okay. So let me explain you in terms of some sketch here, the logic, and then we can move ahead. So what we are doing is, so we will try to find out the smallest problem what we have here. Okay, the smallest problem is when I have amount and I only have one coin. So it means that if my amount is 5 and coins, number of coins I have only 1. So if this is the smallest problem possible, right? So whenever you get the smallest problem, how do you solve? You, in order to know whether I can realize this 5 from this coin, how do you come to know? Like, can I make amount 5 by using a denomination of value 1? What would you recommend? So what is that condition? Like, you will know whether can I realize or not. Likewise, let me see if you can do this or not. So see, by looking at this, you can say that can you realize an amount of rupees 5 just by using 2 rupee coin? The answer is no here, right? You cannot realize that. But here the answer is yes. So what is that logic with the help of which I am able to tell yes and no? Can anyone give me a quick hint? So I have a comment from Viresh. What he is saying is I need to use modulo. Okay. So if you use modulo, you will directly, so you're saying that you will divide that amount by that and you will get that one, right? Okay. Okay. Any other? So if I say, so any other alternative? If I ask you not to use that, yeah, I think Sumit Patil has another answer. What he's saying, the subtract all coins one by one from the amount. Fine. Okay. So modulo is also logic, and another way is to subtract this. Like I will keep on subtracting this value from this amount till I get 0. If I get 0, then it's the indication that I can realize that amount by using the denomination. Or if I get into a negative one, if I do not get 0 and if I directly get into negative values, if I get into negative values, then it's an indication that I cannot realize this value by using the specific denomination. So subtraction is 1 and modulo is 1, right? So this is the smallest problem. This is the smallest problem. But the problem here is when I have more than one coin, right? So for this one, if I increase, see, smallest problem was, let me put it here in another one. The smallest problem was one coin and an amount. Now, I am trying to create another problem. So I've just increased the size of sub problem to a higher level. So now instead of one coin, I have 2 coins. So in this case, you will keep on subtracting, and if you reach to a 0, you will print 1, because from one coin for any kind of amount, if you can reach to a 0 by repeated subtraction, it amounts you can realize, and there is one way to realize that amount, so you will print 1, right? But when I talk about 2 coins, so when I have 2 coins, how many number of ways you will have? Here it is, the number of ways is 1. So number of ways in problem 1 is 1. But here in this case, how do you find number of ways? So here the number of ways have various possibilities, right? So what are the possibilities? The possibility is realizing amount 5. Can I realize amount 5 just by using coin 1? Can I realize amount 5 just by using coin 2? Or can I realize amount 5 just by using coin 1 and 2? So whatever answer you get for this, for 1, 2, and both coins 1 and 2. So whatever you get for yes, no here, yes, no, whatever yes or no you get, yes or no here, yes or no here, or whatever yes or no here. So summing up all this yes or no's from here will give you a solution to the problems. Like number of bytes indicate the number of ways I can realize this amount. So this is the smallest problem. You know how to solve. So the answer for this will be 1. This is coin 2. So just by using coin 2, what I'm saying, just by using coin 2, can you realize this? No. Now, so you have checked one coin, just second coin, and now you have to check combination 1 and 2. So both, using both. So if you want to use both, can you do that? So if you want to use both, the answer is 1. Answer is yes, because by using 1, you will subtract 1 and you have a 4, and amount 4 can be realized by 2 coins of value 2. So the answer is Y. So the total answer of this is 2 ways. There are the 2 ways I can realize amount 5 by using 1 and 2. Now this problem here is something which is based on taking a decision. Like when you are asking for 2 values, you have to think, can I just get the values by using just one coin? I mean, you have to discard coin now and just use coin 2. If you decide to use coin 1, then what is the other problem? Like you have here you start getting the branches available. So branch 1, branch 2, branch. So you start getting a combinations here. So what we do in these cases is, for example, this is the problem, right? So when you have 2 problems, when you have 2 coins here, the available ways to you are 2 possibilities. So the 2 possibilities is the first coin. Let us consider first coin. You might decide not to use coin 1 and just go with coin 2, or you might decide here, or you might decide to use coin 2 and 1. What I'm talking about? I'm just talking about 1. So when you consider one coin, first coin you have, there are 2 possibilities, whether to use it or not to use it. If you decide not to use this coin, the problem gets converted to this sub problem. What is that? Amount 5, I have to realize by using coin 2. If you want to use this, if you have decided that you will use 1 and 2, then the problems remain same as it is, right? Now, this is for first coin. You have decided that you will use 1, right? Then the problem becomes 1 and 2. Here you have further cases. You have decided that you will use coin 1. So now you have to make a decision for coin 2 you have. So here you have 2 cases. What is that? If you decide not to use this, what does this problem become? if you decide, okay, now one more thing. So when you have decided not to use, this is it is. But here, when you decide that you will use coin 1, assume that you have used one coin. If you use one coin of this, you are just using one coin of this. If you're using one coin of it, what will be the amount? The amount will be the denomination of this coin minus 5. So the problem here would be 4. You have decided to use one coin of denomination 1. So the next possibility you have here is to realize amount 4 by using 1 and 2. You have decided here to use this 1 and 2 both. So here you have two more possibilities. What it is? What you have with the possibilities here? 1 to not to use it, or 1 to use it. So here, if you check, if you decide not to use it, you have this sub problem. And here, if you want to, if you have decided to use it, what you will have here? What you will have here? This would be 1 minus 3 and 1, 2. Likewise, this chain will keep on repeating. So remember that you have all these possibilities. 1, 2, 1, 2. So 1, 2, you decide 2, 1, 1, 2, and all that. So here, what happens is you keep on using this, right? So for every amount, for example, if you further solve it, I think it becomes 3 and 2, and I get another branch. So I think this would be better if we can draw it on some paper. I don't think we can fit it into a space. So it becomes amount 2 and coins 1, 2. And this further has. So this further has amount 2 and coin 2, and this becomes 1 and 1. So somewhere while going down all this tree, somewhere you're going all this tree, you will get a point where the amount would be 0 and you have 1, 2. So the moment when you cross this all to the end, okay, when you're crossing all to this end, and when you reach 0, it indicates that, and this 0 was reached just by using first coin. It means that the amount becomes 0. It indicates that just by using coin 1, I can realize this amount. So when amount becomes 1, just by using coin 1, I can realize the amount. So this indicates that I can make up this file by using coin 1, right? So this value you have to note down somewhere, that by using coin 1, we get it 1. So in recursion, we will say, like, see, when we start converting that into a code, the logic just becomes very clear that time. So this is one logic, right? So once it is done, you will backtrack, right? So when you're calling the recursion, you will backtrack, and there will be a point where you will be moving to the left branch. So somewhere when you're going for the left branch, you will still encounter amount 0 and coins available to you. So there you will add 1. So likewise, when this tree grows, when the tree grows to the bottom, and when you end up with an amount, for example, this case, you just mark this coin's value as 1. In some cases, if you go into minus, you will just return 0, and returning 0 indicates that you cannot realize that value. So when you decide not to realize that value, then you have multiple options. Okay. So I think this just sets it for coin 1. And let me see if I can give you an example of a tree where you will get that I will be using both the coins. So this is 3 here, and okay, amount 3, 2 and 1. If you want to decide 1, 1 and 2. Okay. 1 and 2. So, for example, let us say that you are at this point, and here, okay, so if I consider this branch here, amount 2 and ability to use coin 2 and 2, here if you, once it returns, like as I said you, so at some point by using 1, 1, 1, it gets 1. So when you're returning back from this calls, you will reach to this point and you have to pursue the left branch as well. So the left branch of this call, I mean this call, the left branch of this would be amount 2 and not using coin 1. So you have this value, and when you further pursue the left branch of this value, you will reach amount 0. So here you are reaching 0. So if you look here, this 0 here, okay, so this 0, it is 1, 1, 1, 2. So one coin, using one coin, one coin, one coin, not using one coin. Okay, this here means you are not using one coin, and then you are directly using 2 coin. So this is not using 2 coin. So this is using 1 coin, not using 1 coin. So here you can see that. So here when you further pursue this branch, you will get this. It means that 1, 1, 1. So 5 ones. This is one way. This is one way. And the second way you get it is in a branch. See, once you are done with that, you will come back. Return 1, return 1, return 1. Here you have made two recursion coils, right? In the left branch of this recursion tree, in the left branch of recursion tree, you need to also pursue this. When you're backtracking, when you're returning back from this function calls, you need to also explore this branch as well. So technically, when you call this, function automatically executes. So when you go to the left branch here, which is not using that, you have this call, and here it has 2 choices. So in the second choice here, the amount would be 2. Not using coins means I am left with 0 coins. So this problem will return 0. So amount 2, coin zeros means it is a null case. So you return a 0 here. So when you return a 0 here, the remaining call is this. So you provide amount 2, coin minus 2, it is. Amount is 0. It means here this amount 2 can be realized. So here you start returning 1. So return 1 here, return 1 here. All these returns are added up when you just backtrack this recursion top to this coin. So these additions of these ones will now give you the total number of ways you get it. Now you might ask me, sir, this recursion tree looks almost like we are exploring all the combinations. Then where is dynamic programming, right? So the question arises is, what is the logic which we are discussing here? Here we are almost ending up exploring the entire recursion tree. The recursion tree will almost explore all this combination, full combination of this tree. So now you are asking me, where is dynamic programming? We are not, neither we are getting any reduction complexity, nothing. So in this approach, so in this top-down approach, the dynamic programming lies in storing the results of this individual calls. So whenever we get, remember we have just seen one small section of large tree, but if you look at the entire recursion tree for this call, I think once we write a program, I'll show you how we can generate the recursion tree. So we will generate the recursion and we'll see what you get with memoized version, what you do not get with the help of non-memoized version. Okay. So the dynamic programming here is identifying the subproblem and storing this result somewhere in some data structure, so that in some remote part of that subtree, if the same call gets repeated, I will not traverse the branch below it, but I will directly use the result which I pre-computed this in some kind of table. So that's the dynamic programming here. And the problems under this pattern of decision making problems, all problems of this type will always have this tree. So whether to choose or not to choose, if you choose, you have various possibilities. If you do not choose, there is multiple possibilities. For this kind of problems, you have to use this recursion tree. And inside this recursion tree, the dynamic programming optimization is that store the results of each call. Whatever the calls which you make, store this results. So next time, somewhere below, now I have only 1 and 2. Let us suppose I have 1, 2 and 5. Somewhere you will get this call, like 5, 2. Multiple times you get. So that time, instead of pursuing the branch again, you need to just get the result which you have already stored. Okay? Have you understood this? Let me know have you understood this or not. That I need to check the possibilities and why I am saying it is dynamic programming and why it is not, I would say, like why it is not equal to exploring all the combinations. So any other students? Yeah, as I said, other students, see, if you have not gone through the zero knapsack, I think this might become a bit tricky to understand. Okay, so let us do one thing. Let us write the program. Like, remember, this logic might even, we will get far more understanding of this logic when we start looking at tabulation approach as well. So we have seen this, right? 1, 2, 1, 2, and 1, 2, and all. So now let us try to convert this logic into a program. So to convert this into a program, the first thing what I'll be doing is my concentration would be only to first write the recursive logic. Once the recursive logic, you have the recursive logic, and then we will make an enhancement in that to use memoization. Memoization, what is memoization? Storing the results of function call so that the next repeated call to that function will no longer execute the function rather, but it will just return the value which is already computed in the previous call. That's the core of memoization. So as long as whatever data structure, whatever the technique does give you this functionality, you can always use that functionality to have memoization built into your program. Okay, so let us shall we start writing the code. Okay, so let us start writing the code for this problem. Okay, so you see this, right? So we have, okay, I hope you are getting this. What is this saying that? Remember, here the solution is already given to you. So here I need not bother about reading input and doing all that thing. Make sure you understand this first of all. For LeetCode, they do not ask you to go for input, but had this problem be on any other platform, you have to write that additional code of taking input, parsing that, and doing all that. But here it is always pre-implemented for me, so I'll directly use it. So one thing. So recursive one, let us use the same recursive one which you have. The function will make this recursive one, so we will keep on doing that. So whenever you are in a recursion, what is the first thing you have to do? Check. What you need to do first thing? Base case. So you have to always first figure out the base case. So what is the base case? Like if, what you need to check is if amount is equal to 0. So somewhere you have called this function multiple times, or multiple times while passing this, while passing this, you have encountered this problem, right? You have encountered this, where you have passed amount as 0 and coins 0, 1 and 2. It means that the call which has resulted this is called you. It means that it has just successfully completed this. So here, when you're saying you have reached 0, what you need to do? You need to return 1. Why you will return 1? Because this amount was realized by the coins under consideration. So if amount is equal to 0, it means that I was able to realize that amount. So what you will do? You will return 1. Else. Inside else, so else, I think you can further check if amount is not, if you can check, I think instead of else, what you can do is you can check multiple. If, we will take another one. If amount is less than 0, what it tells you? If amount is less than 0, if amount is less than 0, it means that you cannot realize that amount by whatever the coins under consideration. So the coins which was passed to you from this, you cannot realize that if amount is less than 0. Okay. In that case, as the function demands that if it is, you cannot return the 0, return 0. Okay. And remember, this is what we have done. We have figured out amount less than 0. Now, if you look at this, okay, this is what I think I just forgot to share that window. Okay, I think this is what I wrote here. If amount is greater than 0, return 1. Amount is less than 0, return 0. Okay, we are writing the base case. So when we further explore this, what you are finding here, there may be a case. For example, so I think somewhere here. So I think this is 0. I think if you plan to use this, see somewhere I think we didn't exceed this. We didn't go through deep within this tree. But sometimes remember what happens is you have an amount, but you do not have a coin. Right. So for example, what you have decided not to use 1. Let us suppose here I have. Let me show you what exactly I want to say here. So 2 cases we were able to do it. What I am trying to tell here is instead of 1, 2, I have 3. Okay. So now you have planned not to use 1. So you have 2 here. So amount 5 and coins 2 and 3. If I take left of this, what it includes? Amount 5, not use 1. Here it is not use 1, left. Not use 2, left. Amount 5, coin 3. You have further decided not to use 3. Then what will be the call? Amount 5 and what will be the coins? Coins will be empty. Right? They are empty coins. So we have handled the successful case. We have handled the case where amount becomes negative when the coin given 1. And this is the third case which you want to handle. What is the third case? You have decided not to use any coins available to you. So this might even be a possibility in this recursion tree. So recursion tree ends with either 0 amount, either amount negative and some coins. This is where you have to end this tree. This is another point. And the last point is you have an amount, but you have decided not to use any of the coins. You do not have any coins available with you. Okay, so when does it happen? It happens at the extreme left of that. So you have to even handle this case. How do you handle this case here? So you will check for either amount less than 0 or you can check the length of coins, right? If the length of coins, now why I'm checking length of coins? Remember, so if I don't want to use, I hope you see that I am just reducing this length by 1. So if I get a coins length of 0, it means that I have an amount, but I do not have a coin. That's why I'm checking the length. Or length of coins equal to 0. If this is the case, then what you'll do, you will return 0. If none of this is the case, so this is your base case. Now, what you need to return? Can any student guess what I need to return? I have taken care of base case. What you need to do? So 3 base cases I have taken care. Now, what I need to do? The one which you have obtained here, or wherever in whatever branch trees, wherever you get ones. So here you might get 1, here you might get 0, 0, 0, somewhere in another branch you get 1. So I need to do addition of all these ones. So what should be the call in that case? If I want to do addition of that. What should I do? Can any student give me a hint or any logic which is running in his or her mind? See, here in this case, what you will be doing is, you have to just return. Now, see, technically what I have here available is I need to make 2 recursive calls. One by using the coin and one by excluding the coin. If I use that coin, one use of that coin, it means that I have to subtract that amount from the amount. If I decide not to use that any coin in that, then pass the amount as it is and the all available coins to you. Okay. So what is the first thing which you want to, what we have decided? Not to use that coin, right? What I have decided? Not to use that coin. If I decide not to use that coin, what I need to do? So let me write, make recursive call to using a coin and not using a coin. Okay. So what you will do here? Change. You will make the same call. Change. How do you make a call directly here? Change cell. What is the left one? What I'm talking about left here? Left is not using the coin, right? Left is not using the coin. If I do not use the coin, what the amount remains? Amount remains same, and I need to remove one coin from that. So how do you remove one coin from this list? So this is a list. You have to remove one coin from that. So what we'll do is, we'll do one thing. So in the logic here, I have been doing it with here, right? 1, 2, 3. Now, since I'm using Python, in Python I can always exclude this last element by using slicing operator, right? I can use slicing, and with the help of slicing, I can always ignore the last element. So that will make me easier for me to write a code. So what I'll do, instead of deciding 1, 2, 3, 4, we will change it by using from end of this program. So what I'll do is, we'll first use 3. Like the call would be not to use 3, use 3. Then here you get one thing. Then you say not to use 2 to use 2. So we are moving from this direction, right? Why I'm doing that? Because in Python, by using a slice operator like colon -1, this gives me a Python list by excluding the last element. Okay, so that makes me easier to handle this Python operation. That's why I'm writing that. So what is first thing what we have decided? The left is not using this coin. So what I say, coins -1. What does this -1 indicate? This slicing operator in Python indicates elements from first excluding the last element. Okay. So this is one function call, right? This is one function call. Plus, make another call. So this first one call for ignoring the element. What would be the second one? Including the element. So if I include the element, what would be the amount? Amount would be amount minus whatever the denomination value the last coin had. What is the last coin I have? How do you get the last coin in Python? And coins will be as it is. I hope you are getting this. So here you have to subtract. What you are subtracting from amount, you are subtracting last coin. Tell me, what should I write if I want to get the last coin? In a Python list, I want to get the last coin. Yeah, I think Siam has also written, like, you have used index like 0 and 1 and all that. But remember, I need to keep on repeating this. Yeah, I think, yes, I think Siam's logic will also work. Okay, so I think you can always try this. I'll share this link. You can try this. So what should I write here in my program currently here? What should I write here? Here, I am talking about here. So you want to access the last element, make it as -1. I think, yes, I think this should give me the solution. Okay, so now tell me what it is. It's a recursive solution. Now, if you run this, I'll just run it to just see if my test case is passed, the simple test cases. Obviously, this will definitely exceed time limit exceeded errors because we have not yet implemented memoization. We have not implemented memoization. So before we implement memoization, I want to ensure that our logic works. So that's why I'm just checking if we can execute this as it is. So let me click on run code. What is wrong? What did you say is that change is not defined. Okay, how do you call this? Python, how do you call this? Is it self.change? Can any student give me? I don't recall the exact syntax. Self.change, I guess. I think once I say self.change, I think I need not give this self. Spell mistake. Let's see. Self here is always. Okay, you can see that my sample test case is executed. So it is executing. So let me see, and if I just click submit, and let us see how many test cases we get. If we get a wrong output, that's the concern. If we get a wrong output, it means that logic is somewhere wrong. We have to check the logic. If I get time limit exceeded, then I can easily go ahead and memoize, and let's see if memoization improves the performance of this. Okay, so here I think we can see that we get a time limit exceeded, but for what? I think just for this it has exceeded time limit. So 14 out of this. Okay. So if you see here, that's the result of execution. Okay. Here if you see here, 14 cases have passed and 28 have not passed out of this. So the reason why I'm unable to pass remaining test cases is I get time limit exceeded. So what is this indication of? This is an indication that my logic is working fine. So if my program output fails because of time limit exceeded, it means that I need to optimize it. And for a recursive code, the optimization is memoization. So let us see how we can memoize this value. Okay. So now what I need to do is I need to go for memoization. Okay. So for all those students who are using Python, remember a small trick, like if you feel memoization is difficult and that, I would still recommend you to do actual memoization by taking some data structure by or some dictionary and that. But I'll see if there is a small shortcut, if that works or not. If it works, fine. If it doesn't, we will go to actual way of implementing it by using memoized data structure. How many of you know Python decorators? Can you just raise your hand? Hey, Python decorators. How many of you know Python decorators? Let me see. Python decorators, only one student has raised. Remember, okay, IT one student. So Python decorators, they add a lot of functionality to it, especially I think after Python 3.2, 3.5 and the latest Python version. So they're very important. They'll help you recall a lot of functionalities, lot of additional functionalities in that. So one such Python decorator is called as cache. So it is inside function tools, and we need to see if it works on LeetCode or not. So it is something called as so we call it as cache. What it does? So this is a Python decorator, and when I say cache, let me tell you what exactly it does. So it belongs to function tools module package of Python. When I put this decorator, this is called as decorator. It is put above function. So whenever we have any function, to this function, if you put at cache, what it does is this Python runtime stores the result of this function internally. It stores it internally. And next time when you call the same function again, instead of executing function again, what Python runtime does, it just takes that value from the cache. So it will not execute the function again, but it just retrieves the result which was executed and stored somewhere in the cache. So is this functionality correlating with the functionality of memoization? In memoization, what we say? Once we compute the result, store it somewhere and retrieve the result without executing function again. And what cache decorator does? What cache decorator does, when a function call is made, the return value of this function is stored somewhere inside Python runtime. How it stores, what it stores, I'm not bothered about. I just know it stores with an optimized approach. And next time when the same function call occurs, it just retrieves that value back and it gives you that value. Okay. Now, understood? Can you comment yes or no? Have you understood this? What this decorator at cache does? Okay. So now that you understood what exactly it is, let me run. Now there are some points like whenever you run that. Let me show you what happens when I execute this code. So I'll click on run code. Okay. So remember, this is something I was already expecting that. If you get this error, what it is saying? Unhashable list. Okay. So I'm going a little bit into depth and I'm trying to explain what exactly is why this error occurs. So when you get this error, if you get this unhashable type whenever you use this, nothing to worry. It is because of some functionality. What I said is when I use cache, what I said Python uses caches this result in the runtime. So remember, how do you differentiate a function call? So what I am trying to say is that, so when you create a function call, okay, so, okay, think of this as a function call, right? So I have, this is one function call. This is one function call 1, 2, 3, and 4. I have 4 function calls just for an example. Do you think the function call 1 and function call 2 are these same function calls, or they are the 2 different function calls? Would you call it is it execution of same function call? Like, I mean to say, if my Python runtime stores the result of this function, and when this function is called, should my Python return this result, or it has to execute this one? So if you say that on function call 1, this value is cached, right? And this is function call 2. If you say the result of function call 1 has to be returned when function call 2 is made, is it a right approach? Yes or no? Is it a right approach? Yes or no? It's no, because here, though the function name is changed, but the result of functions, they depend upon arguments, right? So here argument is amount 2 and 1 and 2. Here argument is 5 and a list with 2. So if my program has executed this and this result is stored, and if Python is returning this, it is wrong. It should not return this. It has to result what will be the result the function calculates based on this argument. So this Python at cache, what it does, it decides a function call by the function name and the set of parameters. So what it does, I'll technically tell you what it does. So it creates one hash value. What it does, it stores this results by using a concept called as hash table. So it creates a unique hash value from the amount 5 and this list containing numbers 1 and 2. From this both this data, it obtains the hash value. Maybe hash value of this value plus hash value of this, it combines and it generates one hash value. And whatever the return result of this function, that is stored in front of this value here. So next time when you call the function with the same arguments and the same values, what Python argument does, it calculates the hash value. It goes to check in this hash table. It sees, is there any value saved? If this value S is saved, instead of executing this function, this S value is directly written, right? Now the problem with this code here, the problem with this code is this self is an object. Does object has a hash code in Python? Yes. What is amount? Amount is a variable. A variable has a hash code? Yes. What is coins? Coins is a list. Tell me in Python, is list hashable or unhashable? In Python, is list a hashable or unhashable? They are unhashable. It means that in Python, whenever you create a dictionary, you cannot have a list as a key. You can have a variable, you can have a tuple, you can have set, you can have any other one, but you cannot have unhashable items as a key value. So that's the problem. Okay, so when you execute this, what it is saying that it says that a list here is unhashable. So what is the solution? What is the solution? Do you recommend that we remove this and start implementing our own own memoization logic? You can, but there is a small workaround to do this. What we do is we write something called as wrapper function. So wrapper function is nothing but we define function within function, right? So what I do, obviously I cannot change this, because if I change this, the lead code problem submission will not run. I cannot change this at all. Remember, I cannot change this. So what is only remaining with me? To change this function definition itself. So I'll define one more function within function. So I'll call it as, if it is a change, then here I'll call it as change underscore temp. And this I will not use self. I will use amount. And coins which I'm using them, coins, these will be now a tuple. So what I will make it as, I will make them as a tuple. So is tuple hashable? So whatever I have done here, this would be now property within this. I think something is wrong. Let me use tab. So here it is not self.change, it would be change underscore temp. And here too, it will be change underscore temp. Okay. I think since okay. So now when you want to execute this, so here you have to actually call. So when you get this value here, that you need to call here now. Now what you will say, return change underscore temp. You will pass amount. Whatever the amount which you received, you will pass it as it is. Am I at this right point? No. Something is wrong. Okay. Return change underscore temp amount, and whatever the list which you are getting, pass it as a tuple. Tuple of coin. So let me see what happens. What it says unhashable. What is wrong here? So where it is giving me error, it is giving line number 39. It is giving me line 39 in driver. Okay, somewhere here in driver. Okay, I think I am taking this double time. So if you pass it as double, that's also fine. I'll remove this thing here. Giving me unhashable. Okay. The wrong I'm doing is, this is not cacheable now. What I need to cache, this is not cacheable. Not the above one. The below function is recursive one, right? The above is not. The below function should be, now this is what is the recursive function. So I need to take care, this is cacheable, not the above one. And I'm not sure if, okay, this is tuple and runtime 4. Let us see and submit, and let's see if the case is passed or not. Earlier, how many cases have passed? 14. Okay, so now you can see here. Okay, so earlier 14 cases have passed, but now you can see here that since I have used cache, it does exactly what a memoization does. So now you can see that my all cases have passed. Let me show you the table here. Okay, so all 28 out of 28 test cases have passed. This might not be that much impressive, but considering using Python 3 and considering using recursion as a code, this is okay. I would say it is acceptable average solution. I won't say this is a perfect solution. This is acceptable solution. Okay, I think okay. Okay. So declare another function inside function use index instead of coins array. Okay, so now tell me, now you can see that technically now we have executed this problem statement and you can see how the solution we have built right from discussing the recursive approach to this and all that. This would be more clear that had you gone through the zero knapsack and explaining that logic itself is a very lengthy process. I'll share a link to the recording of the zero knapsack where I discussed that approach in a very detailed step-by-step manner with all recursive and all that. I'll share a link to that in the video description, just go through that at later stage. But now, since we have got this, what can be further optimizations you will propose? Or before that, let me just tell me how many of you understood this solution? How many have understood the way we have tried to solve this problem? You can just raise your hand. Okay, so it is 11 students out of 47. Okay. Okay. So I think this is a recursive approach. Now tell me, what can I further optimize in this? What can I further optimize? Where do you say optimize? Now, if I'm not wrong, we were able to get this solution by subtracting. So something, if I want you to try with this problem is, instead of that negative one, for example, we are using minus, right? Amount minus coins of I. Can you do, or do you suggest, if I use modulo, can I reduce the number of calls? Now tell me, using modulo, will it give a right solution or will it not give a right solution? What do you think? If I use modulo instead of this negative minusing that, what do you think? Will it give or not give? So here we are subtracting, and we are making calls. We are seeing is the amount of 0. But if I want to convert this to use modulo, do you think this will work? Or what should I change? Like, I need to do some change here, right? What would be that change? Okay, so what I'll do is, I'll leave it to you to discuss. I'll be very glad to have a solution where the modular arithmetic works. Amount 10, and I think Akash has given a use case. So let me paste it for everyone. This. So what Akash use case is, so amount 10 and these are coins. Is it what you're saying? If you're saying this, I would like to question that. Each coin is unique. So this itself is not a valid input. 226. I hope you're getting that. Or just correct me if I have interpreted this wrong. So each coin is unique. As I said, while solving itself, that simplifies the problem. So this is a very interesting thing to pursue ahead. What you can do is you can try to modify this logic uh, and see if you can, what do I say, see if you can try to implement modulo as a code. I think it should work. I think it should work. Even if you use modulo, it should work, and it should reduce the recursion trees depth. What I'm saying, it will reduce the recursion trees depth. You have to carefully do it, but see, you get it. And let me know if any student solves this. I would be glad to discuss that solution in tomorrow's lecture as well. What Mohammed says is amount modulo coins minus 1. If you do a modulo 1, you have to pass the quotient, not the remainder. If the remainder is 0. Yeah, I think you need not subtract. I think there is a quotient operator in Python as well. I think if you just use slash, I think you have to use that quotient. There is a quotient operator as well. Check the quotient as well. I think that will definitely work. What I want, see, for every student, what I want, understand this problem. And what I want is, I want you to reduce this time. Not other. What I'm getting is 244 microsecond and faster than 53%. If you implement modulo and if you retain the same cache logic, see, here your condition will change here. Your condition will change here. And the way you are passing amount minus this, it will also change. Here you need to pass, I guess you need to pass the quotient here. Just check that logic. If you get this one, I think that would definitely increase this performance. I want to see the improvement in here. Let us see who gets it. But it would be a very interesting thing to work on here. Okay, so this we have solved it by using recursive approach. Tomorrow we will see the tabulation approach of this problem. Like what this approach will be called. Right now we have seen top down recursive approach. Tomorrow we'll see bottom up approach. It would be fine. Maybe a small, cognitively little bit more difficult than today's way to understand it, but okay, you will understand that as well. So if you understand this pattern, remember knapsack, coin change, and we have some more problems of decision making. All these problems you can solve it by using same approach. Recursion of this or the tabular approach, which we are going to discuss tomorrow. Okay. Okay, so I think we are good to end. If you do not have any questions, we can end this. And if you find it useful, I think I'll upload this on YouTube. Yesterday's video is also uploaded on YouTube, and even today's video will be uploaded on YouTube as well. Like if you have any questions, either you comment to me directly here, or you can even comment on your YouTube comments. There too, I'll discuss that. I hope you have found this useful. So do you find today's problem discussion useful? You can raise hand if you feel yes. Okay. Okay, I think I am done from my side. If it is all fine, you can leave the session.